Once upon a time, in a land divided by war, there lived a young king named Alaric. Now, Alaric became king after his father passed away, leaving behind a mighty kingdom that had been built on the promise of conquest and war. Every king before him had expanded their borders with the strength of their armies, ruling through force and might. And so the generals of the kingdom believed it was their right to demand that Alaric also expand the empire's borders and show no mercy to those who opposed them. But Alaric was different. He had watched his father wage countless wars and had seen too much blood spilled under his reign. In his heart, he believed a kingdom built on fear and bloodshed would eventually fall apart. Instead, he dreamed of a kingdom built on kindness and cooperation, a place where differences were solved with words, not weapons. Now, this didn't sit well with many of his advisors. They said, "My king, it is our birthright to rule over these lands. We must show no mercy to those who oppose us." But Alaric couldn't bring himself to do what they demanded. Then, one day, a neighboring tribe, known for their fierceness in battle, sent a message to the king. They wanted what he had, his land and his people. They threatened to attack if he didn't give them everything they asked for. When the messenger left, the generals gathered around Alaric, eager for a chance to shine in battle. They urged him, "Strike first, my king, before they can gather their forces. Show no mercy. Let our swords speak for us." But Alaric was troubled. He knew war would bring death and destruction to his people. And deep down, he didn't want that kind of power, the power to take another's life. So while his advisors prepared for battle, he decided to do something that would shock them all. He took off his royal robes, put on simple clothes, and got on a horse. Then he rode out of the city alone, unarmed, towards the camp of the enemy. The generals watched him go, shaking their heads and muttering, "This will end badly." When Alaric reached the enemy camp, the bravest warriors stood guard. But when they saw a lone rider approaching, they let him pass. They thought it was easy prey, a fat, slow target to practice their sword skills on. But when Alaric stopped in front of their chieftain, they saw that he wasn't carrying weapons, not even a sword. In fact, he was carrying a basket filled with loaves of bread. The guards laughed, but the chieftain, a wise and experienced leader, knew better than to underestimate his visitors. He invited Alaric to sit with him, though he kept a close eye on the king. As they talked, Alaric didn't beg for mercy or offer tribute. Instead, he offered friendship. He spoke of the good things his kingdom and the other could do together. He said, "We have plenty of grain, but you have strong warriors to protect our borders. If we join our strengths, we can build great walls that will keep everyone safe." Then he took out the bread he had brought. "Here," he said to the chief, "let us share a meal. May it be the start of a long friendship." The chief was taken aback by Alaric's words. No king had ever spoken to him like this. They had always demanded submission or threatened war. So he too put down his weapon and picked up a piece of bread. And as the sun set that day, the two leaders sat together, sharing stories and dreams for the future. By the time Alaric left the camp, the sky was dark with stars. The guards who had jeered at him earlier now stood silently, watching him leave. The next morning, news spread through the kingdom that the king had made a friend instead of an enemy. Most were shocked, but some understood the wisdom of the king's actions. Soon, other leaders from neighboring tribes heard about Alaric's ways. At first, they sent threats, but soon they too started sending messengers with gifts and proposals for friendship. And slowly, over time, Alaric's kingdom became a place of peace. He rebuilt old roads and built new ones, connecting cities and villages. Along these roads, happy travelers could walk or ride from one market to the next, trading goods and sharing stories. He built schools where children from all around could learn, not just reading and writing, but also about other cultures and how to be good, honest citizens. He built libraries filled with books, bringing knowledge to all who wished to learn. He opened workshops where people could create useful items, and farms where the land provided food for all. At first, some nobles and advisors didn't like these changes. They said, "My king, why are you spending money on schools and roads? Why are you helping people from other lands? These lands are ours by birthright. The people here should know their place." But Alaric knew in his heart that kindness and understanding were the real sources of strength. Years went by, and his kingdom became known throughout the land as the kindest and wisest. The people loved him. Farmers had food to eat. Merchants had roads to travel. Parents had schools for their children. Soldiers had weapons made in the kingdom's workshops and strong walls to protect them from outside attacks. Everyone felt safe and cared for, and loyalty to the king came not from fear, but from gratitude. One day, a large army from far away came thundering towards the kingdom. This army was known for its brutality. It attacked anyone and everyone. Villages were burnt, crops were destroyed, and people were hurt. The soldiers in Alaric's army got ready to fight, but the king was nowhere to be found. When the invaders entered the kingdom, the villagers didn't run away or hide. They stood up to the invaders, men, women, and children. They fought, not with swords or shields, but with pitchforks, brooms, and whatever they could use to defend themselves and their homes. The soldiers from afar were confused. They had expected the people to scatter like frightened animals, but instead they faced an angry mob. When the invaders tried to attack, the villagers fought back, hitting, kicking, biting, and scratching until the invaders fell down, bruised and tired. Soon, more and more people came to help. Villagers from nearby joined the fight. They had heard about the invaders, and they too were ready to defend their homes. In the end, the invaders, beaten and exhausted, had to retreat without a single victory. From that day on, the name of the king's kingdom spread far and wide. It was known not for its size or riches, but for its people who had shown incredible bravery against the invaders. Alaric ruled for many years. His people prospered, and he became a legend. People told stories of the king who chose kindness over cruelty, who built schools over prisons, roads over mountains, and friends over enemies. They remember him not as a warrior king, but as the king whose gentleness proved stronger than iron. Many years later, when Alaric passed away, his son took the throne. And though he too was a kind and gentle soul, he knew his father's way wouldn't work in every situation. So, while he continued to seek peace, he also trained a strong army, preparing to defend the kingdom should it ever be needed again. And that is the story of the king who chose kindness. A story that teaches us that sometimes the greatest strength comes from the gentlest of actions. Kindness can build strong bonds. Understanding can break down barriers. And a little bit of bread shared can go further than 1,000 swords unsheathed. So whenever you face a problem, big or small, remember the story of King Alaric and choose kindness. You never know. It might just lead to something greater than you can imagine. Thank you for listening to the tale of the king who chose kindness. If you enjoyed this story, don't forget to like, comment, and share with your friends. And if you haven't already, subscribe to never miss out on a new adventure. Until next time, stay curious, stay kind, and remember, the greatest strength comes from the gentlest of actions.